Ladies and gentlemen, Trent Kerth. He is the paid media manager here at CTC. He runs all of our media, oversees all of our media buying here at CTC, and is the man responsible for a lot of our methodology. So I brought him on today to help me take my foot out of my mouth. I got into a little trouble, which I can do in the admission group. There was a thread. Somebody asked about kill targets, when you would turn ads off. We have an old training that's about killing ads at 1x AOV. That is from a sort of former life as Facebook has continued to evolve their systems. And I responded to the comments saying, you should never, ever kill an ad. To which everybody went, woo, gave a Scooby-Doo face and didn't know what to do. And Adrian asked that I follow up with the members to explain. So I brought you on to talk a little bit about what I mean and why we say that. But maybe first, for the members, you can explain sort of where does that 1x AOV training come from? And what has changed about Facebook that has led us to a slightly different spot with our decision making?
Yeah, so I think when we think about the time that was released is our account structure looked radically different, as well as kind of our bidding strategies that we're using. So at that time, we were using all auto campaigns. We had, not nearly as consolidated. We had tons of split out audiences. Like I'm sure you guys are familiar with how those old account structures used to look, where tons of ad sets, all on auto, all spending through the budgets that were kind of set. And, looking back at how we used to run ad accounts is almost comical. Like we'd go through, I remember I'd pull up at my ads manager in the morning, I'd go through, we use that 1x AOV, anything that was at 1x without a purchase, I would just kill it. And then I would go back even later that same day and then look through those same set of ads. They had a purchase, like some delay came through, they got something, I would turn them back on, like we were just, we're killing stuff, reviving it, just making tons of, what we thought at the time were like informed decision. We were doing kind of the best we could. It made sense at the time. Ads would get put into tons of different placements or places and ad sets, and we would have to make sure they weren't spending poorly. So that was kind of our way to curb performance. But now with what we're at, we have, cost controls, which are fantastic because it takes that away from us. We don't have to sort through our ad accounts every day, look at every ad set and kind of see if things are spending bad money, because we know what those controls, that if it is spending, Facebook's trying to learn, and if those are bad ads, it's going to cut off that spend on those ads. So
that's exactly right. So in the days before CBO and cost cap, I remember you guys and this was a thing that I remember Nick loved to do, would be like, you wouldn't even look at the ad set level. You just pull up the ad level, sort by spend, and just go through and start killing, to the point that sometimes you would even kill full ad sets and you wouldn't even know it because you're just killing ads. And then you would go through and, like you said, oh crap, delayed attribution, you would turn them back on. We call them zombie ads. And this was so much of a part of what we did back in the day. We started this thing called whack an ad, where I would literally grab a media buyer and I would say, pull up your account. There better be no bad ads on right now, because we were so conscious of not spending bad money that if we had this rule that was based on some research that we did, that was if you got to 1x AOV and there hadn't been a purchase, that we would kill it. And that was sort of our kill decision. And so that sort of created this training. But the second that we started introducing cost cap into our campaigns, it functionally removes the need for you to analyze performance and determine future outcome. We are essentially handing that responsibility to Facebook and saying, if you decide to spend, we're assuming you have better inputs about the right allocation of budgets across ad sets and ads, and we don't need to introduce manual decision making. Because what humans are terrible at is analyzing data sets and making predictions about the future. I mean, literally think about what most media buyers do. You open an ad account, we're talking about no calculator, no computer. They look at columns of data and they make predictions about the future. Humans are terrible at making predictions about the future with advanced algorithmic models, let alone in their head on the fly. And so what I'm saying is I want to remove human decision making from the tactical ad buying part as much as possible and allow CBO cost cap to do that. So what I primarily mean is if you are running CBO cost cap, you never have to make a decision to kill an ad for performance reasons. Now, there's all sorts of other reasons that you might want to kill an ad. That sale has ended. You ran out of stock on inventory. You're introducing a new angle. Like whatever it might be, there are reasons to do it, but not because of performance, right? And so that's the primary thing that I'm getting at here when I talk about don't ever kill an ad. Don't kill an ad based on performance when you're running CBO cost cap. But we know a lot of people aren't running CBO, Trent. So what would you recommend, or how would you think about this in the absence of the caps? How would we make decisions, or how should somebody be making decisions inside of a campaign at the ad level?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a few cases. Yeah, so I think like if you're running on auto, like if I'm throwing in new ads, like I would at least want to see that like run so it gets out of learning phase, which I think is usually like around 2 to 3 days. But I think like that even that 1x AOV is just such a short time period that it just really doesn't give that like the platform any time to learn anything about, especially if you're going for a new audience or it's new messaging. Like it really, if you're going to go 1x AOV and you're delivering it to a couple thousand people, you're really not giving the algorithm the time to go figure out who that ad should be shown to and where it performs. And I think that's, obviously the platform has gotten a lot more advanced in the past year, but I think like letting it get out of that learning phase and figure out whether it can find those people or if that ad works. Just because I think a 1x AOV is just such a short time period and such a limited group of people that, what if it was still learning and figuring out who those people were that it needed to be showing it to, and it is actually a great ad. So I think that's
So there's something that's so important here, because it's a trick question. Still don't kill that,
yeah.
right? That's sort of the answer. But here's the thing, because what the assumption we make is that an ad runs to a set of people, it gets 10,000 impressions, okay, and the performance in those 10,000 impressions, what you're doing when you analyze this is you're assuming the performance against that previous 10,000 impressions will be the same as the future 10,000 impressions. But Facebook talks about this all the time, in that that is not the case. That what they are analyzing in their decision to serve an ad is not just about the past data performance. It's also about the behavior of the user that they're serving an ad to. So let's say you have an ad set, which we see all the time, of like 3 different products, which we wouldn't recommend SKU specific funnels, but let's say you do pants, shoes, and you've got 2 ads, and the last 1,000 impressions, the shoes is outperforming the pants. But Facebook knows that they've got a user who just searched on Google for shoes, and they have that data point in their feed, or they're browsing other pages about shoes. Well, now all of a sudden, it may be better to introduce that ad right now in that moment to that user, and giving Facebook the freedom to make those decisions on a broader set of data inputs versus just your previous CTR or your previous cost per unique add to cart is a way better allocation of your budget. Because just because an ad performed better in the past does not mean it will perform better in the future, right? That's the really important thing to understand, is that past performance is not indicative. There's not a direct causal relationship between past performance and future performance, but yet that is the way we are making decisions in the ad account. So that's why we really caution against making decisions at the ad level. What else? Yeah. Anything else you try and offer?
So yeah, I think like what we've really established testing out, like we used to also have a really strict rule where you'd only let like 3 ads on in an ad set, and with cost caps, we've kind of opened that up. I think like a few things we found like a sweet spot of about like six ads in an ad set is kind of, and that's Facebook best practices as well. They say like that 6 is a good number, as long as your budget supports it, obviously. But I think like where we have found where we're turning ads off is where when we introduce a new ad into an ad set with cost caps, but it doesn't get spent after 3 days, and then we want to make room to throw in new ads. Yep. I think that's another area, because we use cost caps on the majority of our accounts, and if we put in an ad and we don't get spend on it, that's an area where we might turn it off just to replace it with a new ad.
Yep.
So I think that's the other.
You don't want to end up with 30 active ads, right? So you tried an ad for a while, it didn't get spend with cost cap on, you're trying a new angle. Feel free to turn those back off. Now, I will say our teams will often recycle those and try them again, right? Where you're reintroducing old ads to see how they perform against a new moment, right? Eugene Schwartz, every new introduction of an ad at a new moment is a new experience, right? So you can bring those back and get different outcomes all the time. But the reality is manual decision making at the ad level based on previous performance is going to lead you to inaccurate decision making, and that's the main thing I'm cautioning against. So hope that clears it up a little bit. Trent, thanks for your time, man.
Yeah,
appreciate you.
Cool.